Going Deep on NDEs, a fascinating exploration into the mind-blowing world of near-death experiences. Welcome back to Going Deep on NDEs. Today we're going to be exploring the groundbreaking research of Dr. Kenneth Ring.
Oh, yeah.
A pioneer in near-death studies. He dedicated much of his career to investigating a phenomenon he called mindsight.
Right.
Now, you might be thinking, wait, I heard about NDEs, but mindsight?
Yeah.
What's that all about?
Okay.
Get this. Dr. Ring studied NDEs in blind people.
Interesting.
And his findings
Yeah.
are truly mind-boggling.
It really challenges everything we think we know about consciousness and perception.
Exactly. We're talking about individuals who have never experienced physical sight, reporting vivid visual experiences during NDEs.
Yeah.
So who is this Dr. Kenneth Ring, and why should we care about his work?
Dr. Ring was a prominent psychologist and one of the leading figures in near-death studies.
Oh, wow.
He co-founded the International Association for Near-Death Studies, was the founding editor of the Journal of Near-Death Studies, and he authored several books on the topic. His research has been incredibly influential in shaping our understanding of NDEs.
And his book, Mindsight, Near-Death and Out-of-Body Experiences of the Blind, published in 1999, delves specifically into this phenomenon of blind people experiencing vision during these profound experiences.
That's right. Mindsight is considered a seminal work in the field, presenting compelling evidence that suggests blind individuals, even those blind from birth, can perceive visually during NDEs and out-of-body experiences.
Okay, so let's get to the heart of it. What are some of the cases that Dr. Ring studied? I'm really curious to hear the stories of these individuals and how their experiences challenge our understanding of perception.
Well, one of the cases that really stands out is that of Vicky Umapig. Vicky was blind from birth due to complications from a premature birth. She had never experienced any form of vision in her life.
And she had NDEs?
She had two, actually.
Oh, wow.
One when she was 12 years old and another when she was 22. In both instances, she described seeing incredibly vivid details.
Wow.
For example, during her second NDE, which happened after a car accident, she reported seeing the hospital room from above the medical staff working on her body.
Really?
Even specific details like the instruments they were using.
Wait, so she saw herself on the operating table from above, as if she was floating above her own body.
Exactly. And remember, this is someone who had never seen anything in her life.
Oh my gosh.
It's hard to wrap our head around how this is even possible.
It really is. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about sight and perception. What other details did Vicky report?
She also described seeing her deceased grandmother.
Oh, wow.
And some childhood friends. In what she perceived as a heavenly realm. There was a radiant light and a feeling of overwhelming love and peace.
Wow.
She even described a panoramic life review. Where she saw key moments from her life flash before her eyes.
It sounds like a classic NDE with all the elements that are commonly reported. The out-of-body experience. The tunnel of light. The feeling of peace, the encounters with deceased loved ones. But to think that someone blind from birth could experience this so vividly. It's just incredible.
It is, and it really highlights the profound implications of Dr. Ring's research. Vicky's case isn't an isolated incident. He documented numerous cases of blind individuals reporting visual experiences during NDEs and OBEs.
So tell me about another one. What other stories did Dr. Ring uncover?
Well, there's the case of Brad Barrows.
He
was also blind from birth due to underdeveloped eyes. He had an NDE at the age of 8. After a severe bout of pneumonia.
Wow,
Like Vicky, he described seeing his body from above. But his story takes an even more fascinating turn.
Oh, what happened?
Well, he described going through a tunnel. And emerging into this beautiful field with palm trees and vibrant green grass.
Wow.
He even mentioned hearing angelic music.
Oh, wow.
This is especially striking because having been blind from birth,
he
had no prior concept of what a palm tree or grass even looked like.
So when he was describing visual perceptions of things he had never encountered before in his life.
Precisely. And it goes even further than that. In a later interview, Brad recalled seeing snow-covered streets during this NDE.
What?
Even though he was in the hospital in North Carolina in the middle of summer.
So he was seemingly perceiving things that were happening in the physical world outside of his immediate surroundings.
Yes, and that's something we see recurring in many of these cases.
Really?
Blind individuals report not only seeing their own bodies in the immediate environment, but also perceiving events happening elsewhere.
Wow.
Sometimes even at a distance.
This is just blowing my mind. Every new detail adds another layer of complexity to this whole phenomenon. It's like we're peering into a hidden dimension of reality.
Yeah.
A realm where the limitations of our physical senses seem to dissolve.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Dr. Ring's research really does challenge our conventional understanding of reality and the nature of consciousness.
Okay, so we've heard about Vicky and Brad, both blind from birth. Did Dr. Ring study any cases of individuals who lost their sight later in life?
Yes.
And then experienced visual perceptions during NDEs or OBEs?
Absolutely. One particularly compelling case is that of a woman Dr. Ring referred to as half-blind to protect her identity.
Okay.
This woman had very limited vision. She could only distinguish light from darkness.
Gotcha.
She experienced cardiac arrest at home.
Oh, no.
And later, during an interview for Dr. Ring's research, she described seeing the sink in her kitchen.
Okay.
Including details like the unwashed dishes piled up inside.
That's interesting, but what makes this case stand out? Couldn't she have just been remembering what her kitchen sink looked like from before she lost most of her vision?
That's what you might think.
Yeah.
But here's the catch.
Okay.
She hadn't been able to see that sink for 10 years prior to her cardiac arrest.
What?
Her husband confirmed that she hadn't been able to see it in all that time and was quite surprised that she had remembered those details.
Wow. So it's not just that these individuals are reporting visual experiences.
Right.
But they're often reporting details that they shouldn't have access to.
Right.
Based on their level of vision or their prior experiences.
Exactly. It's as if they're tapping into a source of information that goes beyond their physical senses.
Wow.
And it gets even more intriguing.
Okay.
There's another case involving a woman named Nancy.
Okay.
Who tragically lost her sight completely due to complications during surgery.
So she wasn't blind before this medical event?
No, she had normal vision until this surgery.
Okay.
During the procedure, her superior vena cava, a major vein that carries blood to the heart, was accidentally cut.
Oh my gosh.
And this led to a cascade of events that ultimately resulted in her losing her sight.
Oh, how awful. And it sounds like this traumatic event led to her having an NDE?
Yes, while she was being rushed for an MRI, she experienced a classic out-of-body experience.
Wow.
She described stepping out of her body and observing the scene from above.
Okay.
She specifically mentioned seeing two men standing in the hallway, her lover and the father of her child.
Hold on. If she had already lost her sight, how could she have seen those men?
That's the question that baffled everyone involved, including Nancy herself.
Wow.
Both men later confirmed that they were indeed standing in the hallway just as she described.
Really?
Her medical records don't explicitly state whether she was completely blind at that exact moment.
Okay.
But they do indicate that a significant amount of time had passed since her vena cava was cut. And her lover's notes support her claim that she lost her sight very quickly after the surgery.
So it's highly likely that she was already blind.
It seems that way.
When she had this out-of-body experience and saw those men in the hallway.
It seems that way, and it's important to remember that even if she had retained some residual vision, she was lying on a gurney with a breathing apparatus on her face, surrounded by medical personnel.
Right.
It would have been virtually impossible for her to see those men standing off to the side.
Okay, that sends chills down my spine.
Yeah.
The evidence is really piling up here. Did Dr. Ring find similar patterns in other cases where blind individuals experienced OBEs and saw things they shouldn't have been able to see?
He did. He documented several cases of OBEs where blind individuals described visual perceptions of their surroundings.
Okay.
For example, there's the case of Claudia, who had been blind since the age of 5.
Okay.
She had an OB during a traumatic experience and described seeing herself on a bed from above.
But if she was blind, how could she have seen that?
She grappled with that question herself. She said it wasn't visual in the way we typically understand vision, but she was definitely aware of things in a way that felt like visual perception. She even noted a detail that made it clear it couldn't have been ordinary sight.
What was that?
She was on the lower bunk of a bunk bed, and the top bunk should have blocked her view, but she clearly saw herself on the bed.
Okay, this is all so fascinating, but I have to ask. If these individuals weren't experiencing vision in the traditional sense, why did so many of them describe their experiences using visual language? Like, why say, I saw, if they didn't actually see with their physical eyes?
That's a great question, and it gets to the heart of how we communicate our experiences.
Okay.
Dr. Ring and other researchers have observed that blind people often use visual language, even when describing perceptions that aren't strictly visual. They live in a world dominated by sighted individuals.
Right.
And a language that prioritizes visual perception.
Right.
So it's natural for them to adopt those terms, even if they don't perfectly match their own experiences.
So it's like saying, I watched TV, even though you were listening to it.
Right.
I saw my keys on the table when you actually felt them there.
Exactly.
It's using a shared language to convey an experience, even if the underlying perception is different.
Exactly. It highlights the complex relationship between language and experience. Dr. Ring emphasizes that when a blind person says they saw something, we shouldn't necessarily assume they mean it in the same way a sighted person would.
Right.
Their experience might be a blend of different senses, a form of knowing that transcends our typical categories of perception.
This is all so thought-provoking. It seems like Dr. Ring's research is really challenging the very foundations of how we understand perception and consciousness. I'm eager to hear more about his conclusions and the concept of mindsight.
Yeah.
So we've heard all these incredible accounts from blind people.
Right.
Describing visual experiences during NDEs and OBEs.
Yes.
But what does Dr. Ring make of all this? Does he offer any explanations for how this is even possible?
Well, based on his extensive research, Dr. Ring proposes this fascinating concept he calls mindsight.
Okay.
He suggests that mindsight is a faculty of perception that operates independently of our physical senses. It's a way of knowing, of apprehending reality that goes beyond the limitations of the brain and body.
So it's like a non-physical form of sight.
Yeah.
A sixth sense, perhaps.
That's one way to think about it. Mindsight challenges the materialist view that consciousness is solely a product of the brain.
Okay.
Dr. Ring believes that mindsight points to a non-material aspect of consciousness that can proceed independently of the physical body.
That's a pretty bold claim.
It is.
What kind of evidence does Dr. Ring present to support this idea of mindsight?
He draws on several lines of evidence.
Okay.
First and foremost, there's the remarkable consistency in the reports from blind individuals who describe visual experiences during NDEs and OBEs. These accounts come from people of diverse backgrounds, ages, and causes of blindness, yet they shared striking similarities.
You're right. We've already heard some compelling examples, and they all seem to point to a similar phenomenon.
Right.
It's not just one or two isolated cases, but a recurring pattern.
Exactly. And it's not just anecdotal evidence.
Okay.
Dr. Ring analyzed the data, statistically comparing the frequency of common NDE features reported by blind individuals to those reported by sighted individuals.
And what did he find? Were there any significant differences between the two groups?
Surprisingly, no.
Really?
The blind reported the same core elements of the NDE, out-of-body experiences, seeing a bright light, feeling a sense of peace and love, and encountering deceased loved ones.
So blindness didn't seem to impact the nature or the content of their NDEs.
Not at all. This suggests that the NDE is a universal experience.
Wow.
Not limited by our physical senses or impairments.
That's truly mind-boggling. But what about these specific claims of visual perception? Does Dr. Ring address the possibility that these accounts could be explained by something other than mindsight?
He does. He carefully considers alternative explanations, such as the possibility that these visual perceptions could be memories from prior visual experiences, or perhaps a form of synesthesia where sensory information gets mixed up in the brain.
Could those explanations account for what these blind individuals are describing?
Dr. Ring concludes that they don't fully explain the phenomenon. In many cases, the visual details reported by the blind are far too specific and accurate to be attributed to vague memories or sensory confusion.
And what about the argument that maybe blind individuals are just using visual language metaphorically?
Right.
We talked about that earlier, how they might say, I saw my keys, when they really mean they felt them.
Yeah.
Could that explain away their claims of visual perception during NDEs and OBEs?
Dr. Ring acknowledges the linguistic factor, but he argues that it doesn't invalidate the core experiences being described. He points out that many of the blind individuals in his study, especially those blind from birth, have a very different understanding of visual language compared to sighted individuals.
Right.
They haven't had the same visual experiences to draw on, so their use of visual terms might not map onto our understanding of sight in the same way.
That makes sense. It's like they're trying to communicate an experience that's beyond their normal frame of reference. So they reach for the closest available language, even if it's not a perfect fit.
Precisely. And Dr. Ring emphasizes that even if we strip away the visual language, we're still left with a profound mystery.
Yeah.
How are these individuals perceiving information that they shouldn't have access to through their physical senses? How are they able to describe scenes and details accurately even when they've never had the opportunity to see them with their physical eyes?
Okay, I'm more convinced than ever that there's something extraordinary going on here.
Yeah.
But if mindsight is real, how does it work? Does Dr. Ring offer any theories about the mechanisms behind this non-physical perception?
He explores several possibilities, drawing on various philosophical and scientific perspectives.
Okay.
One idea he considers is that mindsight might be a form of extrasensory perception.
Okay.
Similar to clairvoyance or remote viewing, where information is accessed directly from the environment without relying on the physical senses.
So it's like the mind is acting like an antenna, picking up information from beyond the physical realm.
That's one analogy you could use. Another possibility Dr. Ring considers is that mindsight might involve accessing a realm of consciousness that transcends the limitations of space and time.
Okay.
A realm where information is interconnected and readily available to those who can tune into it.
Wow, we're really venturing into the unknown here. It's both exciting and a little bit unnerving to think that our minds might have these hidden capacities.
It is a profound concept, and Dr. Ring is careful to emphasize that his research is just the beginning of our exploration of mindsight. He sees it as a frontier of scientific inquiry, a challenge to expand our understanding of consciousness and the nature of reality.
I have to say this concept of mindsight really resonates with me.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if we all have this capacity, even if it's dormant or undeveloped in most of us.
That's a question many people ask, and it's certainly a possibility worth considering.
Yeah.
Dr. Ring suggests that perhaps NDEs and OBEs provide a glimpse into these expanded states of consciousness that are potentially accessible to all of us. He believes that further research into mindsight could revolutionize our understanding of human potential.
I'm totally on board with that. But let's come back to the implications for blind individuals specifically.
Okay.
What does Dr. Ring's research mean for our understanding of blindness and the experience of living without sight?
His work has profound implications for how we view blindness.
Okay.
It challenges the traditional medical model that sees blindness as a deficit, a lack of visual input that limits a person's experience of the world.
Right.
Instead, Dr. Ring suggests that blindness might open up alternative pathways of perception, allowing individuals to develop heightened sensitivities in other areas.
So rather than focusing on what's missing,
Right.
we should be exploring the unique ways in which blind individuals perceive and navigate the world.
Exactly. Dr. Ring believes that by studying mindsight, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the diverse ways in which humans experience reality. He suggests that blind people by necessity have developed a different relationship with their inner world, a heightened awareness of non-visual perceptions that might offer valuable insights for all of us.
I love that perspective. It's about recognizing the strengths and unique perspectives that come with different ways of experiencing the world.
Absolutely. Dr. Ring's research is a call for greater understanding, empathy, and inclusion for blind individuals.
Yeah.
He believes that their experiences can teach us a great deal about consciousness perception and the vast potential of the human mind.
I think we've covered a lot of ground here. Let's recap what we've learned about Dr. Ring's work. We talked about who he is, his groundbreaking book, Mindsight, and the many fascinating cases he studied. We also touched on his conclusions and the implications of his research for our understanding of consciousness and blindness.
It's been a truly fascinating exploration. It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It certainly does. I don't think I'll ever look at NDEs or blindness the same way again.
Right.
There's so much more to these experiences than we initially realize. I have to say, this has been one of the most thought-provoking conversations I've ever had about NDEs.
Yeah, it really is fascinating.
Dr. Ring's research really opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
It does.
And speaking of challenging assumptions, you mentioned that Dr. Ring's work has significant implications for how we view blindness.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Dr. Ring's research challenges the traditional medical model that views blindness as a deficit, a lack of visual input that limits a person's experience of the world. Instead, he suggests that blindness might open up alternative pathways of perception, allowing individuals to develop heightened sensitivities in other areas.
So rather than focusing on what's missing, we should be exploring the unique ways in which blind individuals perceive and navigate the world.
Exactly. Dr. Ring believes that by studying mindsight, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the diverse ways in which humans experience reality.
I see.
He suggests that blind people by necessity have developed a different relationship with their inner world, a heightened awareness of non-visual perceptions that might offer valuable insights for all of us.
I love that perspective. It's about recognizing the strengths and unique perspectives that come with different ways of experiencing the world.
Exactly. Dr. Ring's research is a call for greater understanding, empathy, and inclusion for blind individuals.
Yeah.
He believes that their experiences can teach us a great deal about consciousness, perception, and the vast potential of the human mind.
It makes you wonder what other extraordinary capacity we might all possess that are just waiting to be unlocked.
Yeah, that's a great question to ponder.
Right.
Dr. Ring's work certainly invites us to consider the possibility that our current understanding of the world might be just a tiny sliver of a much larger and more interconnected reality.
Well, I, for one, am eager to learn more.
Right.
If any of our listeners are feeling the same way, where would you recommend they go from here?
Well, I highly recommend checking out Dr. Ring's book, Mindsight, Near-Death and Out-of-Body Experiences in the Blind.
Okay.
It's a fascinating read that delves into all of these cases in much more detail and explores the implications of his findings.
Okay. Mindsight it is. I'm adding it to my reading list right now.
It's a journey you won't soon forget.
Well, on that note, we've reached the end of our exploration of Dr. Kenneth Ring and his NDE and OB research on blind people, known as mindsight.
It's been a pleasure discussing these mind-bending ideas with you.
And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this journey into the extraordinary world of NDEs. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep an open mind. And we'll see you next time on Going Deep on NDEs. Thank you for watching Going Deep on NDEs. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
If you'd like to check out our other videos, please visit our channel page and make sure to click on the bell icon so you don't miss any new content.
This has been Going Deep on NDEs, a fascinating exploration into the mind-blowing world of near-death experiences.
Until next time.